welcome back to Whiteboard Friday. We're continuing our series on metrics that matter. And last week we talked about some of the cautionary tales around analytics and metrics that you're actually pulling, whether it's from testing or any type of data you're really looking at. There are some things you need to be aware of when you're actually going through and looking at that data. One is the fact that you want to make sure that it's not always driving all your decisions, and two, just to always be aware that these metrics that you have, while they're good for reporting and they're going to be helpful for your job, use those for your job. Don't use them as like a bully for other people. So I want to make sure that we're doing that. We're going to get into today is, okay, well, now that we've talked about why we need metrics, cautionary tales around that, what are some of the core areas of metrics we need to be driving from our testing strategy? And the first one is quality metrics. And quality metrics really are referring to the results of test executions, or passing or failing, the time that it actually takes to do those. But then also what it's doing is we can also look at different types of data like charters or exploratory sessions as well to see kind of what particular testing we're doing and how can we measure that particular quality. So we'll talk about results driven first. And again, what we're going to be doing is talking about some of the core reports. We'll be talking about some of the extra reports. And then we'll talk about some pro tips as well, some other things you may not have thought of when you're actually going through and doing these reports to help out. So let's get into talk about it. The first one is really a test run summary report. And this is a core report that pretty much everybody wants to see, which is I need a summary of all my testing activities, what's actually going on from project to project, from release to release, cycle to cycle, either by functional area. All that you want to be able to make sure, okay, what is, as a good summary, what's actually going on in my application. And again, these can be results driven, but you could also have charters as well that make up this, or exploratory sessions. So maybe some that aren't necessarily so focused on whether something's passing or failing or it's incomplete. It's more of what's the overall feeling of the application. Did I complete my sessions? Do I still have some to go? That helps out with the summary of what's still outstanding. When we talk about defects, this is the second report, and a lot of people like to talk about defect reporting. However, we think that some of the main areas you need to be focusing on in that defect report are really three things. One is the status of the particular defect, next is the priority, and then also the severity. So what you want to do is, defect reports have a ton of data inside of them, but you need to look at what are the ones we need to work on right away. So before you look at the summary, before you look at the affected area of the application, you want to look at priority, severity, and then also, of course, the status. So in this example, I've actually got a status that's open, and the severity is critical and the priority is high. So this indicates I need to actually act on this right away. The next defect is actually what happened was it was reopened. And that could have been due to a number of factors, but when it actually reopened, what could have actually occurred was the severity may have moved from critical to major, and then the severity or the priority could have gone from extremely high to just medium now. So looking at the statuses could have been changed based off of an indicator for priority or severity. So look at those first, then look at the details around that defect reporting to actually triage the defects for resolution. So when we talk about extra reporting that's going on here, one is looking at the executions that your team is doing from a week or sprint basis. And what this does is it helps you align to see if you're actually utilizing your resources correctly. So it could be that certain days where there's really not a ton of testing going on, or there really hasn't been a whole lot of activity from your test team. What you want to do is look at those days and go, okay, well, why were we not testing these days? What was actually going on? That helps with, one, freeing up your testers to do other things and not having them kind of focus on maybe testing doesn't need to actually occur. Maybe they're waiting on stuff to actually happen from upstream, either developers or BAs. So looking at kind of a trajectory from a weekly basis, where your resources, where are they allocating the majority of their time, and maybe realigning and redistributing them to do other things. The next thing is looking at results per requirement, and we'll talk about defect density kind of later on here, but results per requirement really looks at the test results that you have and where they're actually going on the requirements that you need to cover. So for example, requirement 1 here, 90% of my testing that I do actually revolves around requirement 1, whereas requirement 2 and 3, only about 5% of my testing goes on. So this helps you, one, look at and go, well, are we actually over-testing this requirement, or are we under-testing these requirements? So it helps out just kind of understanding the density of the testing that's going on back to the requirement. Defect density is another thing to keep aware of, and what defect density does is says, okay, we've got a list of these priority and the severity going on over here. That's more granular, but at an application level or at a functional area level, how many defects actually make up these different areas of the application. This will show you kind of right away what application is risky more so than others. Where are we spending a lot of our time in that application based off defects, maybe not based off the test runs, because for example, you could be spending a lot of your test run time actually on application 3, but your defects that you're finding are actually in application 2. So what that means possibly is that you maybe switch some of the testing and move over here, because a lot of the defects that you're finding are actually are the lower areas of testing that's actually going on. So here's some pro tips that we want to take a look at. One is looking at the manual test versus the automated test. So how many of your tests are being manual, how many tests are being automated, and going beyond that as well is wanting to look at, can we move some of these manual tests into an automated fashion? And not all tests can be automated, right? We can do smoke test automation, which may be great for removing a lot of these manual tests that we have here, but giving a trajectory, or maybe looking at what manual tests we have versus automated, and then also looking at what can we move to automated. But then the next part too is, out of the manual and automated tests that we have, what tests are actually more valuable than others? So we may have a lot of automated tests that are producing a lot of value, and also manual tests that may be producing less value. The next thing is looking at the days since test run. This will help out figuring out if you need to have a backlog or dwindle your backlog of the tests that you have. Everyone has these issues where even if you're going from maybe one testing tool to another testing tool, or you're in, maybe you have a list of Excel docs that you have, you may not even know that you have all these hundreds and hundreds of tests that you've never run in the last 100 days. Okay, well, do we need to have these tests here? Do we need to even incorporate those or even think about those as part of our testing strategy? So looking at the days since the last test run, and then that helps you understand whether or not you need to keep that library of tests. And then the last one is looking for flapping. So what flapping means is that you're looking at the same test run that could have been ran under different conditions, different variations, different environments, and you're looking to see what's going on in that test run. If it's always passing with one variables, but it's failing with other variables, that lets you know that maybe we need to go back and look at, is this test case, has it changed? Is it written correctly? Are the environments or the variables that we have, are those affecting the actual overall execution of that? So it's looking at the test run over time with different variables and seeing how it's actually changing on a results-driven type of graph. So looking for flapping, that will help look at if you need to change a test case, maybe there's a problem with the source code, or maybe there's an actual problem with the requirement as well. So that's it for today, talking about quality metrics. Stay tuned for more Whiteboard Friday series on metrics that matter. Hey everyone, Ryan Yackel here with QASymphony. Thanks for watching Whiteboard Friday. For more videos, visit QASymphony.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope to see you soon.